Hello everyone, welcome back to Coding with Mock, and in this video we'll be looking at how to properly stop a thread. There's a few details that I will need you to take into account and that we will learn about stopping threads. Now, before we can stop a thread, we need to create a thread. Now, I'm going to create a really simple thread. Let's create a thread, and let's make it a pizza factory. And let's do new pizza factory. And we'll create this class by extension, right? And we'll do an override. Which override? We'll do the run method. There we go. And in my run method, I'm going to create pizzas. Really simply, I'm not really going to create pizzas, but I'm just going to fake creating pizzas, baking a pizza. Yum, yum. There we go. Okay, so now we're baking pizzas. Let's see if everything works. In our main, I'm going to start our factory and see what this does. And we're baking pizzas. We're baking a lot of pizzas. Now, instead of creating a user interface and having that interface interrupt everything or stop everything, let's just wait a few seconds and then stop our pizza factory thread. Okay? We'll sleep for about 2 seconds, and then we want to stop our thread. Now, the way to do this, there's a method called interrupt, right? And our interrupt interrupts the thread. Now, the secret sauce about the interrupt method is that the interrupt method doesn't really stop our thread. The interrupt method sets a flag in our thread, a Boolean thread, and it sets that to true. And it says, okay, this thread is now interrupted. The reason behind all of this is because, well, Java applications can be doing a wide range of things. And let's say, for instance, that our Java application is monitoring the heartbeat of one of our patients in a hospital. Now, if by any chance that monitoring system is running on a thread and we just stop that thread without doing the appropriate things that need to be done to close off that resource, there is a real possibility that something harmful happens. And okay, this is a really worst case scenario, but it's a real life scenario. That's one of the reasons why the interrupt only sets a flag in our thread and says this thread is interrupted, and you as a developer will need to manually stop your thread. And in your thread, you will need to check if your thread is interrupted. Okay? Now, it's not that hard. Let me show you. How do we check if a thread is interrupted? Easy. It's a flag. So what we can do is we can ask our thread, are you interrupted? Using the isInterrupted method. And this method will return true if you're when your thread is interrupted. So we can use this. So instead of doing while true, I can do while not interrupted, right? And to make it a little bit more readable, while not is interrupted. So as long as my thread is not interrupted, I can, or my thread will keep on running. And let's have a little look-see what this does. And we're running, and we're done. After 2 seconds, my main thread interrupted the pizza factory thread, and my pizza factory thread stops working. Cool, right? There's a few more details that we need to take into account. I told you at the start of the video, there's about 3 of them. Now, the first one was to stop a thread, use the interrupt method. Number 2 was the interrupt method only flips a boolean, and we need to check that boolean ourselves. Okay. Now, the third one, and this is the really fun one, you won't be coming across this problem a lot, but it's a real situation. So I'm going to show it to you. What's that real situation? If we're using a sleep method, and let's say we're baking pizzas every 250 milliseconds, so we're going to be baking 4 pizzas a second, which would be awesome. Now, remember that our sleep method throws some an illegal argument exception. This is a runtime exception, so we don't have to take that into account. But this one here, our interrupted exception, that's a checked exception, and we have to take that one into account. If any thread has interrupted the current thread, so our main thread is interrupting this thread, the interrupted status of the current thread is cleared when this exception is thrown. So basically what is going to happen is when our main thread interrupts our current thread, or pizza factory thread, while it's sleeping, it's going to throw us the exception. Okay, so and try catch. So basically what's going to happen, if my main thread interrupts it while we're outputting to the console, there's no issue. That way we'll go back, our flag interrupted is true, so we'll stop our application. But if my thread is sleeping at that point and it gets interrupted while it's sleeping, it'll throw this exception. So basically, let's see, my sleep got interrupted. Let's put that here. Right? Now there's one really important bit that I can't stress enough. That's this last sentence. The interrupted status of the current thread is cleared when this exception is thrown. So basically the interrupted status of our Pizza Factory thread is going to be cleared. So we need to reset it if we really want to. Okay, so we can use our interrupt to interrupt a sleep if that is what is expected. But in most cases, we want to stop our thread. But being in a sleep mode, our interrupt flag will be reset. So I have to reset the flag. Okay, so I have to interrupt my thread again. Okay, now everything should work fine. Well, let's have a little look-see. Baking pizzas. Sleep got interrupted. I'm baking my last pizza. So my sleep got interrupted. I'm setting the flag again because it got wiped, and I'll show that to you in a second. Baking a pizza, going back to the while, we're checking, we're interrupted, and we're stopping the thread. Okay, now there's another way. We could just do return, and that will just make us go out of the whole loop. Now, that might be a bit tricky if you're closing down or if you're doing some more stuff here that you really want done, then just use the interrupt method. If not, you can just do the interrupt. But let's not do the interrupt or not do the, and I'll show you just to finish off, I'm just going to show you what happens if you don't reset the flag or if you don't set the flag again. And then let's have a look. We're baking pizzas. The sleep got interrupted. You can see there, sleep got interrupted. But my application is still baking pizzas, right? And we're still baking pizzas. and baking pizzas. Okay, right? So that's the thing that you need to worry about. So, stopping threads. 1. Stopping a thread. What we use to do that is 1. The interrupt method. 2. We have the interrupt method only sets an interrupted flag, and we have to check it ourselves. And 3. It's a detail, but it's an important detail. If you interrupt a thread that is in a sleep mode, it will set the flag, throw the exception, and the exception will reset the flag. So you're going to have to handle that reset flag. So basically what you can do here is either interrupt again, or return, or do nothing. That's also a possibility. The possibility might well be that you want to, instead of interrupt using the interrupt method, you might want to actually interrupt the sleep and make your thread do some work again, right? It's not the most optimal way of going about it, but it's a possibility. Okay, that's the video about stopping threads. If there's any questions, leave them down in the comments or try and reach me using email. Good luck and have fun.